NBA player's not hard to miss, right?
No.
Jonathan Isaac certainly qualifies. 6'11", coming into 6th and Peabody. Gets a lot of glances like, oh, there's a pro athlete walking by. And he sits down with us live in studio, Orlando Magic's forward. Jonathan, good to see you, man. Hope everything's great in Nashville for you this Friday. We're pumped we're going into the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. I'm glad to be here, fellas. Thank you.
Absolutely. Is it odd? I find it odd, even to myself, as I think, oh, Jonathan Isaac's coming in. He's the player who stood for the anthem more than just NBA player Jonathan Isaac. Do you get that as much as you do NBA questions?
I really do. I really do. As this kind of whole journey has taken off, I'm surprised all the time that through the airport, people know me for different things outside of just basketball. And I do like it because I do believe that I'm more than a basketball player. And so when I do get greetings and people say you're the one, or for something else, for the book, for all those things, I'm excited about it.
And now you're launching a brand, the anti-woke brand, Unitus, which you're sporting right now.
Yeah.
And you've got the website, weareunitus.com. Tell us about the initiative there and what you're doing with the brand currently.
Yeah, so for me, it goes back to 2020. I was a Nike-signed athlete, and I didn't end up re-signing with them after I got injured. And at that point, I started to play around with the idea of what would it look like to start my own values-based sports and apparel company and wear my own sneakers and do it that way. And really, the heartbeat of it is just as our country, society, faith, family, and freedom are super important to me. And I felt like we've moved farther and farther away from those values and principles. And I wanted to take an opportunity to celebrate them through Unitus. And so to give consumers and people who want to buy dope merch, dope sportswear, leisure wear, an opportunity to buy with their values and celebrate those values that I hold dear in my personal life.
Jonathan, what do you think is the most unfair thing that's been said about you, either in the wake of standing for the national anthem when all of your Magic teammates kneeled, or if it's your stance on COVID vaccine? I know that you're a very smart guy. I mean, anybody can listen to you for 30 seconds and know how smart you are. So I know you read, and I know you read these things about you, both negative and positive, right? So what's the negative thing that you've read that you would say, okay, this is the most unfair thing about me and the characterization of who I am?
So I won't say something specific, but I would say whenever I see something that is just a mischaracterization of what I know that I've said, and so when people just kind of take things and run with them, I think I'd say probably if I do get specific, it would be the Rolling Stone article back during the COVID times. So I got on the phone with a Rolling Stones reporter, and we talked about the whole COVID situation and me not taking the vaccine. And then that article drops, and it's a complete mischaracterization of my position on everything. And I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to right the wrongs in that video that went viral of me at the press conference. But I'd say that, and just when I'm taken completely out of context and not for what I've said.
Do you get, it won't be an apology, but do you have people that come up like, man, I wish I would have listened more to you than scoffed at whatever you were saying?
I've had that a few times, even from guys around the league or different players that have said, yo, if that was to happen again, more so the COVID situation, they wouldn't be on board with it as easily as they was the first time.
I don't know where you come down on your thoughts on the United States women's national team. But how do you feel about those who are even posing the question whether or not they would stand for the anthem because they would be supporting the United States women's national team in the World Cup?
Say that one more time. What exactly do you mean?
There are those that are actually they're either considering not rooting for the United States in the Women's World Cup, and even asking, should we, in protest of what they stand for the anthem ourselves. I find that extremely hypocritical, considering many of the people that I know were on backing your efforts and standing for the anthem because it's the national anthem. Even posing the question that you would take a knee or remain seated, but because you're not supportive of the team in attendance.
Yeah, for me, it's twofold. Like, me standing in the bubble, it definitely primarily was because of everything that was going on at the time with, the tragic death of George Floyd in that situation. I didn't feel comfortable aligning myself with the Black Lives Matter movement and organization, and I felt that I had my own solution, which was the gospel. And I wanted to share that as an antidote to all the problems that we see in our country, not just racism. And so that was the primary goal for me. And the second thing is that I don't think that pride in America is a bad thing. I don't think that having a hopeful outlook on our country is something that is negative. I think it's something that we should all share and that I think bands us together as Americans. And so for me, I've always been, I'd say it like this. My pastor says it all the time. He says, you haven't done everything right, but you haven't done everything wrong either. And I think about America like that. Obviously, we know about, the struggles of America's founding and slavery and all those things, and they're absolutely wrong and terrible. But America hasn't done everything wrong. And, I'm blessed to live in this country and play the game that I love. And I think that I was in an Uber on the way over here, and a guy recognized me, and he said, "Oh, you're the one who stood for the anthem." And he talked about he came over from Iraq, and he said, "Listen, people talk about this and that, but if they were to go over there and see what I saw and had to go through," and he talked about he served in our military. And so just stuff like that, I think it's good to have a positive outlook on the country that we live in.
NBA forward Jonathan Isaac in studio with us on Hot Mic.
Now, Charles Barkley had a lot of things to say about people who decided to boycott Bud Light and made assumptions about why they were doing that, because they're anti-gay, anti-trans, homophobic, whatever it may be. There's often times where, and you and I share the same faith, where our faith does contradict the world, right, and what we believe is out there. There's also a difference in hating something and not wanting to celebrate it. Mm-hmm. I thought you laid it out well in your tweet in referencing Charles Barkley and what he said, and that is that no one's saying that people don't deserve rights in this country, right? It's more about personal choice. What did that rant say to you? What would your response be to what Charles Barkley had to say and the whole boycott itself of Bud Light?
Yeah, so for me, I always just preface it with, I'm not for the controversy. I understand that these topics are extremely polarizing, and it does suck that it is that way. I thought about it a few times, like, okay, should I even touch this at all, knowing what happens, when you put your mouth on this kind of topic. But I was frustrated to a degree and felt the need to say something. I wasn't necessarily frustrated at Charles. I was frustrated at the narrative that he was attacking. And for me, that narrative is the same narrative that that's the same kind of on a lot of hot button issues, is that if you have any concern, any pushback, any hesitation to jump on board and support these different ideas, it's rooted in hatred. And that is the narrative that I don't like. And I think that that's the narrative that's easy to attack. And so that's what Charles did. And so for me, I think that there is reasonable concern for a lot of Americans when it comes to that specific topic, concern for their own children and what they're learning in schools and what's being taught, all those different things, and concern for the kids that are going through such an identity crisis at the same point in time. And I think just the notion that only one side is coming from a side of compassion, I think that's wrong. I think that a lot of parents are concerned about truth, concerned about what's being put out there, and have the right and freedom to do so. And so again, it's a hot button topic. Not everybody likes to touch it or talk about it, and to each his own. But I did feel the need to offer the narrative that I think most Americans are feeling at this point in time. I don't think that there are some that are rooted in hatred, and I would disagree with them. And I think Charles is right to say what he had to say. But the majority of Americans, I think, do have a heartbeat that is coming from a compassionate and concerned place.
Everything has to be an argument instead of a discussion.
Right.
That's the vibe I get, and I think it's media driven more than anything, because it's very divisive on what channel you watch, who you listen to, who you don't listen to, and it's more about who's wrong than who's right, and that turns into the argument instead of the discussion.
And I want you, Jonathan, on every media outlet.
Yeah.
Not just Outkick. Like I say that wholeheartedly. We need more people rooted in being reasonable and intelligent and not just trying to provoke or start a fight on every media outlet right now. So I'm glad you did the interview with Rolling Stone. I hate that they misrepresented what you were saying, right? But isn't that an example of kind of where we are right now in America?
1,000%. That was kind of my first wake-up call to there being I don't necessarily know the right thing to call it, but a machine, call it what you want, propaganda, or people talk about the media twisting words or things like that. I was oblivious to it until it happened to me. And so I was able to look at it word for word and say, I didn't say that, or that was a complete mischaracterization. And again, that's a lot of what goes into why I want to start Unitus and why I want people to have the freedom of choice to support what they want to support. For me, it's about agreeing to disagree to a degree, whereas people can believe what they want to believe. But if you support these values that I hold dear, and I think a lot of other Americans hold dear too, you can go to a place that supports those values.
What would your teammates at Florida State or would the Magic say about you? I ask that because I think the perception out there from a lot of people would be this guy disagrees with the NBA stance, so he's probably not well liked in his own locker room by NBA players. How would you answer that question about what your guys think of you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have my teammates and a lot of guys around the league's respect. Again, kind of a agree to disagree standpoint, whereas a lot of guys disagree with me on a lot of different issues. You know, my decision to stand at the end of the day, but I respect them and they respect me for it. And love my teammates. I go to war with them each night when we play, and we go from there. I think another thing is that they know that I care about them. You know, my teammates know that I'll go the extra mile, and if anybody's injured, if anybody needs a shoulder to talk to, Jonathan is there, and so they know that.
Jonathan Isaac in studio with us. The website is We Are Unitus. It's the new brand that launches next month, right?
Yeah, August 1st. You can go to We Are Unitus on Instagram and Twitter just to keep everything tuned in so you don't miss anything. But you can also head to weareunitus.com to plug in your email and stay tuned.
How long did it take to come up with the design for the branding?
The sneaker. So I'm going to be wearing a Unitus Judah 1 this upcoming season. And so that's going to drop closer to the season. That took a year and a half. But the merch, not as long, but it did take a while. And it's just been a dope process. Like, what does it look like to be in the NBA but also take on the role of being a CEO is really weird. It's really strenuous, but it's been really fun. And I've had, a joy rehabbing and getting back to playing basketball and doing this on the side.
Considering you can wear sneakers made in China and Chinese-based companies, I guess it's not that hard to get it approved by the NBA to have your own sneaker brand. But is there a process to be able to create your own brand and wear those sneakers through the NBA? Do they have to approve of what you're wearing?
No, I don't think there's a process. Really, I know that there's not a process. I think there are a few restrictions already out there that the NBA won't allow you to do when it comes to material or way that you make a shoe. But for the most part, you can wear what you want to wear.
What is Victor Wembanyama in for?
No, I think he's going to have a great career. I think it's definitely going to take some time. Looking at summer league, he's going to have to find his footing a bit. I've heard some comments that people have had to say about him not being able to take contact and what that's going to look like. We'll see. But obviously a super skilled kid, and we'll just figure out when we find out.
Man, I just don't know. At all of the hype and you've got
tough.
Everyone saying that he's the next guy, and then all of the defensive-minded players are like, "Try driving on me." Draymond's like,
I probably got it.
He's not coming at the rim on me.
In my mind, but we'll see. I think he's going to be a great player, have a great career, and I wish him the best.
You played in 13 games because of injuries? Only 13 games since 2020, or
something like that.
Date.
It's something crazy.
Are you finally to a point where you're confident? This is the season where you're back?
Yeah, I'm ready to rock. I'm 100%. So I'll be ready to go this upcoming season. I feel great about it.
Love that you stopped by while you're in Nashville, and love the brand, love the website and everything behind it.
It looks cool.
It does. WeAreUnitus.com is where you can find Jonathan Isaac and Unitus, the brand there. Plus, you can find him on the court coming up soon as well.
I'm sure he got a bunch of free gear he's going to give to us also, and that huge.
I do like the design.
I would need to send you guys some stuff.
Yeah,
but I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Great chat there with Jonathan Isaac, and the logo itself. The concept was the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah.
He said.
I immediately thought of Raiders of the Lost Ark because I just watched an Indiana Jones movie when I thought of that. No, really, really smart guy. Fun just sitting down, talking with him about a number of issues. Seems like the type that is going to have a well-thought-out opinion on almost every topic that you could ask him about.
Not everyone wants to hear the well-thought-out opinion, though, Chad.
No, they don't.
No conversation. Argument only, please.
But I am glad, it sucks to hear that the Rolling Stone interview went so poorly. You could also understand, okay, this is what Rolling Stone is trying to spin back then when it comes to COVID vaccines and
of course
vaccine mandates. And here we're trying to get at someone who's trying to paint him out to be some Christian idiot or whatever they want to, try to spin it as. I just wish that, you could be treated fairly. If you're him. I want him to be treated fairly within the media based on the merits of what he has to say on issues, good or bad, and not just, I think this of this guy because he has these opinions.
WeAreUnitus.com is where you can find the brand and the initiative behind it from Jonathan Isaac.